Now understand, when I say inflation, it doesn't mean only CPI, WPI. I am not talking of that at all. We are talking of purely the types of inflation, means like hyperinflation, cost push inflation. All of this means roughly 7 to 8. Okay, so that is our main topic. So before starting, let's start with the motivation. I always start with the same motivational quote every day. You might be wondering, why do I start the same thing? Because I believe we must read less and think more. Okay, so when obstacles arise, you change your direction to reach your goal. You do not change your decision to get there. Okay, so whenever I face any problem or you face any problem, change the ways of doing the things. When you don't find time to study for CIIB, do not change your final goal of doing CIIB. Always change the ways of doing things, means try to rob the time from wherever you get. Okay, means in the banks, when you have some free time, take the video lectures of Adda 24/7 on your mobile. Take it directly, see it at that time instead of wasting time on tea or some restricts. Creep in your lunch time, means squeeze your lunch time. Okay, so that can be done, all these things. Okay, so we need to change the ways of doing things, but we need not change our final goal. Okay, download Adda 24/7 on your mobile. Now what will this have? This will give you the updates of various exams. Number one, the study material, the video lectures, live video lectures, and the recorded sessions also directly on your mobile. So this is very important. Share it with your friends. You yourself do it. Okay. Now we are starting with a new batch of CIIB for June 22 exam. Okay. We'll be targeting that batch. So that exam. So the batch will be starting from March 28, 2022, 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. Okay. So it'll be BFM, ABM and retail. Combination of all the three topics. Okay. So join this as fast as you can, and remember, we are having this 77% offer or mega offer of discount. So grab this opportunity as fast as possible, because the prices are set to rise soon. Okay, on all JAIIB and CIIB products. So immediately do it. Okay. Okay, let's come to our topic. What is inflation? Inflation is the decline in the purchasing power of the given currency over the time. Means decline in the purchasing power means what? Sometimes our family members do speak. When we were working, means our grandfathers, grandmothers speak. In 100 rupees I would used to buy so and so much things. Now in 100 rupees what can you buy? Nothing almost. Okay, just go out and your 100 rupees are gone. Okay, so this is basically the meaning of inflation, reducing the purchasing power of that currency. Okay, a quantitative estimate of rate at which the decline in purchasing power occurs can be reflected in the increase in the average price level of the basket of the selected goods. Now what are these basket of the selected goods? See here, if you consider CPI, then the basket of selected goods is different. If you consider WPI, then the basket of selected goods is different, right? For CPI, see here, we are not into that today, but then also I am giving you just one-liners for CPI and WPI. In CPI, what do we consider? Consumer price index. So it is related to consumer. All that milk plus your daily consumption goods, okay, everything, staples, everything is calculated, taken care of in CPI. And what do we have in WPI? Oil, then input costs, various manufacturing industries. Okay, so that. So the basket of selected goods, what are you considering? That is important. If you are considering the retail inflation or CPI, then the basket of goods would be different. If you are considering WPI, then the basket of goods would be different. See here, that is a separate topic. I will be covering it later. Okay, CPI, WPI and various types of these inflationary measures. Okay, today only types of inflation. Okay, so average price level of the basket of goods and select services in the economy over a short period of time. The rise in general level of prices, often expressed as percentage, and means that unit of currency effectively buys less than it did in the prior periods, right? Quite logical. Means as the prices increase, you will be able to buy less, right? Simple. Okay. Now what is against inflation? What is the opposite of inflation? Deflation. Okay, inflation can be contrasted with deflation, which occurs when the purchasing power of money increases and prices decline. Now this is a bit tricky part. Okay, it's difficult to understand. Means here, when can somebody have deflation? Means when does the purchasing power of money increase? When the prices decrease. When did the price decrease? Did you see any time in your life when the prices decreased? Yes, we see that. How do we see that? See here, it's never applicable to whole economy as such. Many times means it may be applicable to economy also. Means in India, suppose if you see, we have not found any deflation as such. We have de-inflation, but we have not gone into deflation. But in US, in the Great Depression we call it, that is called as 1929. If you check out Google, you will see that great deflation. And then there was some this like COVID we had that some virus effect also at that time. So that caused deflation. Prices declined drastically. And once the prices declined, the whole economy went into deflation and people could buy more. Okay. Now why to go so long for that example? If you consider only specific sector of some economy, then we see regular deflations over there. Suppose if you are going to purchase some land, and tomorrow if somebody comes, somebody tells you that the land on that land is going through some highway, or it won't be purchased, or it won't be of any use, and if this news spreads, what happens? For that specific sector, for that land purpose, what happens? The prices decrease and then the power of money increases, right? So this is a specific unit, specific sector, like in March 2020, right? Yeah, March 2020, when COVID first wave came in, and it came in all of a sudden. And then on March 2020, what was the stock price? What were you getting at? What was the price of Reliance? What was the price of Infosys at that time? And what is the price today? Right? So why did that happen in March 2020? It's a sort of deflation in that sector specifically. The prices declined so hugely that the purchasing power of money increased. Means I could buy what I can now with the same price, one share which I can buy of Reliance. At that time I could buy almost 2.5 or 3 shares, right? So that was an example of deflation. Okay, so always try to get the examples from your current scenario, and don't ever look at these terms for whole economy or something given in the books only. Try to make up or try to match these things with your daily life. Okay, now we'll go to types of inflations. Types of inflations are, see this: demand pull, cost push, open inflation, repressed inflation, hyperinflation, creeping and moderate inflation, true inflation, and semi-inflation. Okay, now in exam, out of these, what I have seen many times is demand pull, cost push, and hyperinflation. Okay, these three I have seen many times. Okay, but others also, if they are not asked, it doesn't mean they won't be asked. Okay, so let's study one by one. Demand pull. Logic is very simple. Demand and pull means if the demand increases of anything, there is more pull, right? Means, let's say for example, if you are going to buy a plot tomorrow, or you are going to buy a share, let's say, take simple example, plot. Stock market, many of the guys don't understand. Okay, so if you are going to buy a plot, and if there are 2 to 3 bidders for the same plot, then what will happen? Demand will be more, right? And once the demand will be more, there will be pull. Everyone will try to pull that plot towards themselves. So that is known as demand pull, and that will lead to what? Increase in the price of that plot. So the same thing happens in economy also. This is when the aggregate demand in the economy exceeds the aggregate supply, right? Demand exceeds the supply. One person to sell and almost 5 persons to buy, right? Same plot example. This increase in the aggregate demand might occur due to an increase in the money supply or income or level of public expenditure. Means increase in the money supply means what? What do you mean by money supply here? Understand the simple logic. If RBI reduces the repo rate or it reduces the CRR, the money supply in the banking system increases. If the money supply in the banking system increases, banks will distribute more loan. If banks distribute more loan, people will get more money in their hands. Means businessmen will get more money in their hands. They will invest more. They will invest more, industry will increase more, salaries will increase. And once the salary increases, the overall inflation goes up. Okay. So this is how it is related always. Okay. So the increase in aggregate demand due to increase in money supply or income or level of expenditure, all these three are related to each other. See this example, see this graph. See, demand was over here, then what happens? Due to increase in some money supply, demand went over here and supply is same, supply curve is same. So once this demand curve goes over here and it crosses, this is known as equilibrium. So equilibrium will shift now to even. Now once it shifts to even, what happens? See this price level. Earlier it was P, now it is P1, so it has gone higher. So this is known as demand pull or housing prices, right? Always you see, every 5 years if you check, why 5 years, even 3 years nowadays, you check every 3 years the house price or the flat prices will always increase, roughly in 5 years, okay? Last 2-3 years or last 4-5 years have been a bit reverse way in India, but not reverse actually, they have not gone down. They have remained stable or increased by a limited content or limited percentage, okay, but increase is stable, okay, that always increases, okay. So this is known as demand pull inflation. Second is similar one, cost push, means what? Cost and push. So supply can also cause the inflationary pressure if the aggregate demand remains unchanged, but the aggregate supply falls due to exogenous causes. Means what do you mean by this? See this. This is the original supply curve. This is the original demand curve. Now demand remains the same. But what happens? Supply falls. Now once the supply falls, what happens? See this. The demand over here, see here, this was earlier P. Now supply falls means this is the original supply and this is the new supply. Falls means it goes back. It goes back. Once it goes back, it will cut this equilibrium price at some higher level because demand curve is always sloping downwards. So once the supply curve shifts to left, when it shifts, it will cut the demand curve at some higher point. Once it cuts at a higher point, the prices will increase. See, original price was P over here. Now it is P1. Why has this happened? Because demand is same and supply has lessened. Can you see any example? Okay. Now presently what is going on? Presently Russia-Ukraine war. What is going on? Due to this, oil prices have increased drastically. Why have the oil prices increased? Because the supply in the oil is decreased, because Russia is a major supplier of this oil, and also if other countries who supply to the parallel level also, but then also oil prices will increase, because world always gets afraid when there is some war or something like that, and the commodity prices always go up. Have you seen the gold prices since last 1 month? They increased almost 2-3 months. They increased from 46,000 to 55,000. Now they are coming again, cooling down. Okay. So what does this mean? The commodity prices increase because the supply decreases. Okay. So this is cost push inflation. Next, open running inflation. Now this is simple to understand. This is the simplest form of inflation where the price level rises continuously and is visible to people. You can see the annual rate of increase in the price level. Means it's commonly found out everywhere. Means generally, for example, let's see the general price rise. The commodity, this is generally applicable to CPI. Means applicable to WPI also, but we as a common man always see it in terms of CPI. The price of 1 kg of rice was what earlier? The price of 1 kg of rice is what now? Every year is it increasing or is it decreasing? This is just an example I gave you, rice. It can be of other commodities also, or other consumables also, to be frank. Firstly means other than commodities, we are speaking of general public, so consumables. Okay. Okay. Next, repressed inflation. Now repressed means what? What do you mean by repression? Repression means pressing down. Pressing down. Okay. Can this happen? What do you mean by pressing down? See here. Uh, in Indira Gandhi's time, many of us, even you and me, were never born. But at that time, when the inflation went high due to the wars, okay, at that time, what happened? The government started rationing. Even today, we have a rations, right? Rationing cards. So repression means what? It presses the prices down. Let's say there is an excess demand in the economy. Typically, this leads to an increase in price. Okay. However, government can take measures to take some repressive measures like price control, rationing, etc. Now, I'll give you one better example for this. The flat prices or the housing prices always increase, always, right? So, what had happened almost 6 7 years back? The housing 2 BHK flat was out of the control or out of reach of a common man. So what did government start? Government started that 2 lakh incentive, right? The 2 lakh incentive, and it started various measures for downtrodden lower level also, right? Like giving some this subsidy for building a house, building, and basically what that Shauchalaya scheme of Modi government was the same logic. It put the measures like rationing. So rationing means what? Rationing is not only for rationing of food items. Rationing means anywhere where the government takes control and tries to equalize the demand and supply. Okay. So when they started this Shauchalaya scheme, it is a type of rationing only. Also the rationing, why do we get this rice on this yellow this ration card so at such a low rate? Because government provides subsidies to it. So this is known as repressed inflation. Government tries to push or push the prices down. Okay. Next, creeping or moderate inflation. Creeping means what? Simple. Both the terms means similar meanings only. In this case, the price level increases very slowly over an extended period of time. Moderate. In case the rise in the price level is neither too fast nor too slow, it's moderate. Now, rather than just discussing the grammar, creeping and moderate, understand only one logic, that both the things are slow. Okay. When example is this: when the rate of inflation slowly increases over time, for example, the inflation rate rises from 2 to 3, 3 to 4, 4 to 5, something like that per year. So what happens? People don't come to know that the prices have increased when it rises by such a low level. Okay. So this is known as creeping or moderate inflation. Okay. True inflation. This takes place after full employment of all factor inputs of an economy. Now what do you mean by this? See here, this takes place after full employment of all factor of inputs. Now what do we do always? We hear the word employment, we only think of jobs. No, it's not that. Full employment of all factor inputs means it's not only jobs, it's factor inputs. It's factor inputs means what? Factor inputs means whatever the land, labor and capital. Basically for any starting of business, there are only 3 things required, right? Land, labor and capital. If all have been put to work, and then also once they are put to work, everything is working, and then also prices rise. When is there any scope of doing anything then? So that is the meaning of this true inflation. Means full, everything is employed, nothing is idle. None of the factor inputs is idle. So when there is full employment, the national output becomes perfectly inelastic. Now what is this elastic and inelastic? Elastic means with change in the price rise. Basically understand this. With change in the price rise, there will be change in the demand of the commodity. It will decrease. Means if price increases, the demand decreases. Okay. So that is elastic. Inelastic means what? With the changes in the price, nothing happens to the demand. Like the rice, okay, all the rationing products, or the gas, LPG gas which we have. If the prices rise, will you use the LPG to work? Now what else will you put to work? Now if the RBI reduces the repo rate over here or reduces the CRR, there will be more money in the market. But will it increase because any output? No, it won't. Why? because it's just the total output with whatever I am having, it is put to work, and now I am getting more money, more capital. Is it of any use? No, it will just increase the inflation. That's it, nothing else. Oh, one of the most straightforward examples of inflation, of this type of true inflation, can be seen in the prices of the milk. Okay, CPI basically. In milk, what had happened? What was the price of milk almost 20 years back? What is the price of milk today? Okay, so that is basically, even gas or this petrol prices, same thing. Okay, semi-inflation. Even before full employment, employment means it's not employment jobs. Okay, it's employment of factor resources. An economy might face inflationary pressure due to bottlenecks from certain sectors of the economy. Now, what does this mean? It means that certain sectors of the economy, even today, when we have the CPI and WPI in control for India, but there are certain sectors which have a high inflations. Okay, so these sectors which have high inflations always prove as a bottlenecks for growth of the economy. Okay, or for the input or utilization of the capital. Okay, so this is known as semi-inflation. So let's take an example. When money supply increases even after full employment has been attained, output remains same and only prices rise. Now this can be considered, see, the semi-inflation is a bit of part of this earlier part, true inflation. Okay, so some sector, for example, if you want any of these sectors, basically this sector is generally for that real estate. Real estate sector is always moves in the opposite directions. So means it is a, we call it a vague, not vague actually. This real estate sector is a not transparent, opaque sector. Okay, so this is an example of semi-inflation. Generally, the effects happening on the real estate sector are the means construction sector are the bottlenecks generally, and they always put pressures on the economy. Okay, so these were the types of inflations which I wanted to put before you. So we are starting again, I am reiterating, we are starting this CAIIB batch for June 22, starting from March 28, 6 am to 8 am, BFM, ABM, retail, everything is covered, and the lectures are similar to these which I take. This is only half an hour, there I take it for 2 hours. Okay, and explain you each and every concept of ABM, BFM and retail. Okay, so do join immediately, tell your friends. Okay, the prices are going to rise, right? Inflation, what can I do? Inflation means inflation can be created, cost push, right? Just now we saw cost push and demand pull. So this is the demand pull inflation basically. So prices are going to rise. Take advantage of these prices, 77% discount immediately, otherwise means you'll have to pay a higher price. So do it fast. Tell your friends, share it on the social media. I'll take the leave. Okay, see you tomorrow in the next class. Also, I would suggest join the paid classes with these 77% discounts. Okay, I'll see you there also. Okay, bye.